please welcome to the stage His Excellency Felipe Calderón, former president of Mexico, Nobel laureate, and Professor Mohammed Yunus, chairman of the Yunus Center, and Irina Bokova, former director general of UNESCO, to talk about innovative approaches to climate change in Latin America. Irina, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I'm very excited to be with such eminent, important personalities for this debate today, and I'm happy that the Latin America's Summit, Concordia 2020, is including such a topic of innovative approaches to climate change in Latin America. Let me just say that this year, as an introduction, that year 2020 was supposed to be an important year, 5 years after the Paris Climate Agreement, when governments, all stakeholders, private sector, academia, were supposed to take stock of what has happened in these 5 years and how to make and to take more robust policies to tackle the challenges of the climate change. Now, unfortunately, with the COVID-19, we have seen the devastating consequences, unprecedented economic, social, humanitarian, and others. But at the same time, I believe that there is a more cognizance of the importance of going to a low carbon or even a carbon neutral economy. We have seen some other regions and countries like Europe, the European Union, launching a European Green Deal. We have seen the important announcements, decisions by Japan and Korea to go until 2050 with a carbon neutral economy, and China by 2060. And Latin America, I believe, should not be aside from this debate. It is not aside from this debate because we know that climate also in Latin America is changing. We have seen fires in the Amazon, melting glaciers in the Andes, droughts, extreme weather, ocean which is rising, some of the coastal cities, towns which are affected and threatened. So I do believe that still challenges are there, but there is a lot of innovation in this area. And I believe that is why today's debate is so important, to speak about these innovative approaches to the climate change. So joining me here, and I'm very honored to be moderating this debate, one of the, I would say, leading practitioners and thought leaders in this area. It's the former president of Mexico, Felipe Calderón, member of the board of the World Resource Institute, chair of the Global Commission on the Economy and Climate, and known for his strong commitment to investment, infrastructure investment, and greening this type of investment for a low carbon infrastructure. And the other also eminent thought leader, maybe does not need for me to present him, Professor Mohammed Yunus, but still I would like to mention, of course, Nobel Peace Prize winners 2006, but has never stopped working also for the social innovation and creating recently a Yunus Environment Hub, which already became a global social business network that creates solutions for solving some of these environmental crises. So I'm very happy to be with you both. And I would like first to go to President Calderón. Very nice to have you, Felipe, here with the Concordia. We have been with you many times at the Concordia Leadership Council, but I would like to, being a leading figure as a president, a minister before, and now working with the private sector, of how to share with us how can indeed governments invest in low carbon energy, transport, water, telecommunications, infrastructure generate. I think this is one of the biggest problems that many governments confront nowadays.
Yeah, please. Thank you, Irina. Could you hear me?
Yes.
Well, but it's an honor to stay with you, Irina, Professor Yunus. I'm going straightforward. Well, one thing it is needed is the right infrastructure framework, which implies that the right economic incentives for investing in infrastructure. It is estimated that we will need roughly around $90 trillion in the next the next 15 years, not only to recover the economy, but in general to satisfy the society demands. So the first point is it's quite important that any government could focus on to pick the right green infrastructure, and that implies to have a legal framework that allows public and private sector to work together in this endeavor. Second, we need to create a different environment in which the South, the big South, for instance, the poorest or the developing countries in the South Hemisphere will catch maybe two-thirds of that needed investment. So the most of the investment will be in our countries, and we need to tackle several barriers. The first one, Irina, is price distortion. We need to stop providing subsidies to fossil fuels, and we need to clear the market. And the most important public measure that is needed is to price carbon. Put a price on carbon will be the right signal to provide the incentives in the market to the right green infrastructure and green growth. The second is, I would say, to invest in investment, which is we need to develop some kind of capacity. Frankly speaking, I wonder if you coincide with me, but there is a lot of money looking for good projects, green projects, investment funds, mutual funds, pension funds, with a clear mandate, for instance, to invest in green economy. However, their investors are not able to find the right viable projects because we have not developed the technical capacity, for instance, in project finance, in the right technical and financial programs, presentations, designs, and the lack of the right viable projects is preventing the right green investment in our regions. Third, it's a financial system that could remove the very expensive price of the money in several projects. For instance, countries like India can fit marvelous to receive such infrastructure. However, with interest rates beyond several two digits or in two digits, make almost impossible to finance such kind of projects. We need to adapt our financial system. And finally, we need to invest, the governments can invest in clean technology, in particular research and development related with the green economy and in green investment in infrastructure. Today, it's incredible, but we are spending half of the money we were spending in research and development probably 50 years ago in 1970s, for instance, in energy or research and development for innovation. So that needs to change, and the government could address most of their efforts in these areas I mentioned.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a very interesting outline of the four main points that you mentioned. I'm very impressed by the fact you said that there is a lot of money, a lot of desire to invest, and there is lack of such viable projects. So this should be probably one of the priorities for governments to create this capacity, technical capacity. How do you see this process?
Definitely. So there is a poem of a Latin American poem of one of these singers, Facundo Cabral, say there is half of the world is waiting with a flower in the hand, and the other hand of the world is waiting for that flower. So I see the point. Our countries need a lot of infrastructure, and I see in the world we used to work that there are a lot of people, companies, I insist, funds. They need to invest in long-term projects, and the best project matching those interests are infrastructure projects. However, those investments don't find the right viable projects. They have ideas, they collect a lot of purposes, good intentions, but not technically viable projects. And we need to create capacity. We need to invest in technical capacity to develop all those projects in our region. And it's not easy, but it's important.
Is this of course, responsibility of the governments?
In part, of course, it's the entire society.
The entire society.
As the main responsible for education, for instance, in which both of you are the real expert in the world, but the focus of the government maybe could move towards to be more specific to create capacity among young people for technical purposes, be able to design, for instance, either a bus system in a city or better designing, very public policy designers for urban models or buildings, or a new railroad, or you name it, or renewable energy facility, or transmission lines for electricity utilities. All those things are needed, but maybe we are not able to create this enough viable projects at the speed. The demand for them is growing. It's bumping everywhere, and it will do. Once we have this terrible crisis of COVID, key element for economic recovery will be the investment in infrastructure, and we cannot make the mistake to invest in the old, aging, polluting investment. We need to invest in the right infrastructure now, and that will foster the recovery. Governments will be ready, I believe, but in particular, private companies and investment funds will be ready, and they have not yet the right viable projects.
Well, Professor Yunus, President Calderón just mentioned that it's indeed the responsibility of the whole society. And speaking about a new climate economy, about a new green growth, how do you see this process evolving and your practical work?
Yeah, thank you for asking the question. What I would emphasize in this context is the urgency of the whole thing. It's not just another of the policymaker, and we debate, discuss, we delay, so on. The urgency is at the top level right now, because the whole our house is burning. Basically, that's the image that I can come up with. The house is burning, and it's the responsibility of everybody inside the house to come out and stop it. And it's not about government doing something, world Bank will do something else, and we'll just watch them fail or watch them succeed. That's not the game this one is. This one is about survival in the planet right now. I keep repeating by saying that the human being today is the most endangered species on this planet. That's the urgency. That whether we'll survive or not is at stake right now. And all the indication is we may not survive in a few years' time. And the time is ticking. It's a very few years left for us, and that's why our children marching on the street, accusing their parents, calling themselves Fridays for Future, that our parents are irresponsible parents. They have stolen our future. So that's the extent of the urgency that we have to do. That urgency is not expressed in that, as if it is one of the many other things. It's not. It's a question of survival on this planet. We don't have much time left for that. So this is the first one that we have to do. It's everybody's job. It's not just a government thing. It's not just one group of people and so on. And pandemic kind of reveals this thing very clearly, that the economics is stopped. And now we have a choice, whether we go back to the economy that we had built, which created the global warming, which created the extreme wealth concentration, which brought in the artificial intelligence. And it's a terrible world with very little time left on this planet. So as an endangered species, we have now a role to go to other directions so that we are not endangered. We have to seek for new life for ourselves. And that's the direction. Everything that we have been doing in the planet has to be done differently. Not only differently, outrageously differently. If you continue to do the same way, you do the marginal thing. The time doesn't allow you that kind of thing. So you have to do outrageous thing. And that's an urgency and the outrageous nature. We have to be bold whatever we do. It's not just an allocation of funds here and allocation of funds there. It's a massive mobilization. Even as individual citizens, as individual persons, we have to make sure that we are not contributing to this global warming. We are not contributing to that wealth concentration. And that's the thing that we have to do. We have to build a world in a very limited time, given framework, a very limited time, to a net zero carbon emission world, where there will not be global warming. So this is the kind of thing that we see. We are talking about the Amazonian fire. We are talking about the Australian fire. We are talking about the Californian fire. The whole world is on fire. That thing is missing. These things we see as a piecemeal thing. We see it as if if you can put fire down in the Amazonian forest, probably you're safe. We're not safe again, because the burning is what makes me shocked. That while house is burning, we are having a big party inside, celebrating our successes, our growth, our technological successes, and so on. What does that mean? If the house doesn't exist, nothing exists. So first priority is to stop that fire so that we don't get burned out and turn into ashes. So this is where the decisions have to be done in desperation. The sense of desperation has not been created. That sense of desperation has to come in every layer of the society, every family has to work on that. If I'm opening a bank account, for example, I have to ask myself, I ask the bank, where do you put my money when I give the money to you? Do you have a list of people, organizations that you are putting my money into? Do you have a fossil fuel kind of thing in your list? Do you have plastic in your things? Do you have other polluting industry in your list? Sorry, I cannot put my money into it. So I have to find a new bank which will allow me to put my money, because I'm afraid, because you're killing me, and I'm fueling it by myself. So that consciousness that I am contributing to the danger of my children, and who are accusing me that I'm doing something to stealing their future. I don't want to steal their future. I want to give them a better future. That's my commitment. That has to be very, very openly and discussed. And what is my food habit? Am I still eating the beef, which is burning the Amazonian forest because of the cattle raising, because of the soybean raising? Is this what I do? I talk about very well speeches I make about the global warming, and have a big steak for the dinner. There's a mismatch what I do, what I say, and in my everyday life. So I'm saying, I'm shortening it. I'll say that the urgency part is missing. We need to be aware that we do, and we have to redesign the entire thing. Doing this way is not going to work. Because if we want to create a world of net zero carbon emission, very clearly, and with a given time frame, and there you have to undo everything that we have done. The pollution and the global warming didn't come from the supernatural power. We created it. We are the self-destructive people. So we have to undo everything that we have done, the way we've done business, the way we've done politics, the way we did education. Everything has to be turned around so that we can go the other way. The old way of doing things will only accentuate whatever we got. So we have to abandon that. We are kind of addicted to everything else. As a party, we are having the party inside the burning house. That addiction has to be overcome. We have to see clearly so that we can go the other way. So old road will always take us to the old destination of fire and everything else that we have. So we have to create that new destination. In order to reach the new destination, we have to build new roads. There's no option to that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Yunus. So powerful words, and I think this sense of urgency, indeed, is very much needed. Just 2 days ago, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, made a very powerful speech, exactly trying to put us in front of our responsibilities as humanity when it comes to climate. And I think what you said, very important, is about choices. And probably COVID-19, the crisis with all its consequences, unprecedented, that have never been seen since probably the Great Depression, the Second World War, economic, social, and all the rest, at the same time give an opportunity to think differently, as you said, because if today we say that we have to build back better. And I would say we have to build back greener and more sustainable, because the loss of this path of sustainability is one of the biggest dangers also in front of all of us. But if I can come to the main topic of our discussion about innovation, a lot of these choices and a lot of these investments, a lot of these new robust policies can be also done through innovation. And I know that your hub is exactly about Yunus Environment. Hub is about innovation, about social innovation. Could you just share a few words about it?
Yeah, what I meant about going to the new world with the zero net carbon emission, building new roads, and this at the environmental hub that we created is an attempt at the beginning of that attempt to create that alternative, the new road. We created, said that present business is profit maximizing businesses. When you are focusing on the profit maximization, you don't see anything else. You see only the profit. You destroy the world, you don't care. And that's how we were burning the house, by concentrating on the profit motive. So we said we can create another kind of business to solve problems. Instead of being driven as a human being driven by self-interest, we want to be driven. We are also driven by common interest. Let's move on the common interest. And we created new business to solve problems rather than make money. So conventional business is about maximization of profit. In our orientation towards a common interest, we build business not to make money, just to cover the cost. That's the kind of business we want to. And no personal profit is intended in that business. We call it social business. So the Entrepreneur Hub that we have created is motivated and created for that purpose. We create solve the environmental problem like plastic, how to collect the plastic, recycle them, and put it into use again, long-term use. Single-term use is plastic is causing all the problem. So can we collect back the single-term use? And can we negotiate with the plastic companies not to produce the single-use plastic? Can we negotiate with the consumers not to use the single? Because if you don't do it, the house keeps burning. So this is the thing. It's not only just making the business, also at the same time campaign that goes on around it, that we have to do that. So we have been involved in that and cleaning up the river. The river carrying all the plastic and destroying the river. So how to clean up the rivers which is most polluted rivers, clean it up so the plastic comes out, and get the root of the plastic, where the plastic is coming from, so that we can address that. So we are creating examples how to create business to solve the problem of global warming in piece by piece in every single way. How to make sure your food is safe. How to make sure that you are not contributing by consumption to the global warming, to all the problems that we have caused. So we go back to those issues in doing that. So the hub that we have created, we are a social business. We invest in these businesses. It works just like any other business. It makes profit. Profit is plowed back into the business. The making profit is not the intention of the business, but we don't want to lose money by doing that. So then instead of doing the charity, because entire thing is kind of dominated by charity programs, doing this, doing that. I said charity is good, but the charity money has only one use. You can use the one money to do the thing, and once it's done, money is waste. Money is done. Money doesn't come back.
It requires a totally new mentality. It requires really a totally new approach, societal approach. And I think it's very interesting with circular economy and all the rest. And if I can come back to President Calderón, Felipe, because coming once again from the whole societal, and coming to the main stakeholders, I would say, of this partnership. I think partnerships are very important in this area. Of course, governments and private sector and society and everybody. Could you just give? I know that there are many innovation, a lot of ESG already, green investment. The business is turning around. Of course, not to the extent that probably we want, but there is a momentum there. And I think we have to support this momentum. Would you give some good examples of such partnerships and what can work? I think it's important to say that it can work.
Well, definitely, what it does work is the public policy that establishes the economic incentives to invest in innovation, research, and development. So one thing is the budget. Of course, we need to prepare, we need to push the investment through the government, but also private sector. And if the private sector has the right economic incentives, they are going, and actually they have already invested in innovation. One clear example is the price of solar energy, solar panels. 10 years ago, Irina, solar panels, today, solar panels and energy coming from the sun is like 90% cheaper than it was 10 years ago. So,
and you
why
said
is
it
that?
used to be much, much more expensive than
yeah. So
the fossil
now it's
fuel.
completely. You remember maybe? Well, you are too young, Irina, too young. But maybe you remember that 10 years ago, it was like naive to talk about solar energy, isn't it? You talk about that, and people, oh yeah, some kind of like nostalgic, utopian guy. Now it's completely affordable and completely competitive, even in commercial terms, and that is because innovation. But that is, it doesn't come from somebody just thinking how to do things better. It came from the economic incentive that provided to solar energy an opportunity to be in the market, to be in the thing. Because one element we need to add to is maybe it's very unpolite to say that in Latin America, but it is important to provide the economic sense, the economic advantage, and even to talk about a forbidden word, which is profit, related with the new economy, the green economy. Is not, as Professor Yunus was saying, it's not only about philanthropic purposes, it's not about charity. It must be about development, and development implies that the economy needs to work in a very efficient way, creating jobs, gaining benefits, provoking some kind of profits or revenues, whatever, for the companies. Otherwise, it's going to be impossible to get that. So innovation must be linked with economic incentives. Or the second or first, the budget of the governments, economic incentives for private sector, and the new focus on education, as we already mentioned. And let me tell you some examples. Up now, governments looks like the main and sometimes the only responsible of the green economy. But now I can see a switch from the government to private sector. And in the middle of this is partnership you are talking about. It is possible. And you see, for instance, private companies. One example, Tesla, this company producing electric cars, and they initiated in a very ambitious, bizarre way, because nobody believed in them, in Tesla. And Tesla now worth more than the combined market value of most of the world's major automakers. So Tesla is bigger in terms of money than Toyota, Volkswagen, GM, Ford, Chrysler, and so on. It's bigger than all them altogether. So why? Because it's a profitable, but at the same time, quite important business for electric cars. And now all the companies are trying to switch to electric vehicles, and the governments are actually announcing, for instance, the UK government announced that after 2030, they won't allow the sale of fossil fuels engines in the cars, so only electric vehicles. So it's an incredible step in the right, and you can imagine the incentive for innovation in that field. Other point, yes. The private public sector, one example in Latin America, and I conclude with that, is, for instance, what is happening in two separated areas and two countries. One is Costa Rica, forest. Ecotourism is one of the most profitable growing activity in Costa Rica, and my friends of Costa Rica are able to create and to increase the forestry surface in the country, and at the same time to create thousands or dozens of thousands of jobs a year related with ecosystem. On the other example, and that's in a combination between public policies, the government, and private sector. The other is Chile, and in particular, what is happening in Santiago de Chile. Santiago de Chile was able to create a powerful combination between public and private sector. Now, private companies following public plans of the governments and some economic incentives are created an incredible net of electric buses in the city. They started with 100 buses. They have already 300 buses, electric for the city with all the supply of electricity is provided for utilities, which are participating in the business as well. And now they are mobile. The commitment is to have 800 electric buses in the capital of Chile. So this is a quite powerful example for me that it is possible to have public and private partnership in order to foster the new green economy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Felipe. I wish we had more time to continue this passionate debate. What I take from it is that the sense of urgency, definitely, what Professor Yunus said, and that it can be done, that there is innovation, that there are good models of working, both on the side of government, the private sector, the general public, the society as a whole, and we should not lose this sense of urgency. We just have to move forward with a more robust, more bold policies and decisions. Thank you very much for this wonderful debate, and we end on this slightly more optimistic note. Sense of urgency, but it can be done.